Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Savannah, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and if there's one thing I learned early in life, it's this. People respect the wrapper more than what's inside. Until you show them what you're really made of. So when they laughed at me, when they whispered and pointed at my slippers, they had no idea who they were mocking. But they were about to find out. Excuse me, ma'am? I had just stepped into the boutique. My hair was pulled back in a rough bun, no makeup, sweatshirt too big for my frame, and yes, slippers. The woman at the counter looked me up and down like I had dragged dirt in from the street. I smiled politely. Hi, just browsing. She didn't smile back. Instead, she leaned sideways, tapped her little headset, and whispered to her coworker, loud enough for the entire store to hear. She thinks this is Goodwill or something. I froze. The words hit hard. Not because they were wrong, but because I used to shop at Goodwill. I had to. There were years I had to choose between bus fare or dinner. There were years I wore shoes with the soles flapping open and used paper towels as insoles. But I worked my way out. I built something. I fought every stereotype they placed on me. And still, here I was. Standing in a luxury designer store, being judged like I was trash under their heels. You need help finding the clearance rack? Her coworker added, sipping a cold-pressed green juice. They both laughed. Loud. Now don't get me wrong, I don't normally lose my cool. But this wasn't just about me anymore. Because I've seen this happen to my mother. My sister. My daughter. We walk into places we've earned the right to be in, and we're treated like we snuck in through the back. So I took a deep breath, and took one single step closer. Actually, I said slowly, I'm looking for a dress. For an event. Something elegant. Red carpet. The girl in the green jumpsuit raised her eyebrows. For what event? Pajama brunch? The other one laughed so hard she snorted. And I had a choice in that moment. I could walk out, dignity intact but heart bruised. Or I could show them. Not just with money, but with the grace they'd never understand. Sure, I said. I'll take a look myself. I walked through the velvet-draped racks, touching fabrics that cost more than my rent used to. I could still hear them behind me. Mocking. Whispering. Making jokes. She probably thinks Dolce is a type of coffee. She can't afford a hairbrush, let alone Dior. I bet she pulls out a debit card from the gas station. Each sentence burned. But I let them talk. I let them build the fire. Because soon, I would light the match. I picked out 3 gowns. Each over $5,000. Walked back up to the counter with a quiet confidence. Their faces shifted, just a little. One looked confused. The other looked nervous. Trying them on? No, I said. I'm buying them. All 3. They exchanged a look, somewhere between disbelief and panic. Ma'am, are you sure? We don't do refunds on luxury purchases. I didn't flinch. I reached slowly into my bag. And pulled out my card. The Black Amex. Matte. Heavy. Silent. Dead silence followed. The one who'd been smirking? Her jaw dropped so hard it almost hit the marble floor. The girl with the green juice? Spilled it all over her blouse. I tapped the card on the counter and leaned in. See, the difference between you and me. You wear designer to feel expensive. I wear slippers because I already am. Their mouths hung open. Not a word came out. The manager came rushing over, suddenly all smiles and apologies. Ms. Jones, is everything all right? Please, allow us to personally package your order. Champagne while you wait. I didn't even look at him. I just said, loud enough for the entire store to hear. People remember how you treat them when they look like they have nothing. But the real test is how they treat you when they find out you have everything. You see, I wasn't always like this. There was a time I would have let that moment break me. Gone home, cried into my pillow, doubted my worth. But now, I use these moments. Because every time someone underestimates me, they hand me a mic. They hand me a chance to show the world how far I've come. And how many more I'm pulling up with me. So if you're listening to this right now, if you've ever been laughed at, sized up, pushed aside because of how you looked, or where you came from, don't shrink. Don't apologize. And for heaven's sake, don't explain. Let your life speak for itself. Let your wins do the talking. Let your cards swipe quietly, and leave their jaws on the floor. Share this story with someone who's ever been judged too soon, too harshly, or too often. Remind them, you don't have to prove them wrong. Just live like you already did. They see the black card now, but they don't see what came before it. They don't see the nights I cried on the floor of a one-bedroom apartment with no heat. They don't see my daughter eating instant noodles on a paper plate while I told her it was spa night. They don't know what it feels like to count coins in your car under a gas station light, hoping you can afford a gallon to get to work. But I remember. Because before I was Ms. Jones in boutiques, I was just Savannah from the south side of St. Louis. Daughter of a factory worker and a woman who cleaned office floors so others could shine. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Until my dad walked out and left us with a notice on the door and 2 garbage bags of clothes. I was 13. That was the first time I saw my mother break. Not cry. Break. Like a glass that shatters silently but never goes back together the same way. She stood in that doorway with shaking hands, reading the eviction notice like it was written in another language. We had 30 days to leave. And not a single dollar in savings. We moved into a shelter for women and children. I still remember the smell, like bleach and canned peas. I slept in a cot next to a crying baby for 3 months. I did my homework on the floor, used my backpack as a pillow. I was ashamed. Ashamed to tell anyone at school. Ashamed of the holes in my shoes. But my mom? She never stopped praying. She said, "Baby girl, this is not your end. It's your beginning." I didn't believe her at first. But I held on to that sentence like a lifeline. I got my first job at 16, bagging groceries and wiping down carts. Every shift, I watched women come in with designer handbags and French nails, acting like the world owed them praise for just walking in. They'd snap their fingers. Roll their eyes. And I'd smile anyway. Because I told myself, one day, I'll be on the other side of this counter. One day. College wasn't in the cards, not the way life was going. I tried, though. Enrolled in night classes while working doubles. Took the bus 2 hours both ways just to learn how to build a website. And I was good at it. I started taking on small clients, fixing websites for barbershops and bakeries. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. That's how it started. With free Wi-Fi at a public library. A used laptop missing half the keys. And a girl who had nothing but hunger in her eyes and fire in her chest. I made my first real check from a salon in East St. Louis. $200 for a homepage. I stared at that check for 2 hours. Not because it was a lot, but because it meant I could do this. I built a business one client at a time. Nights turned into mornings. Coffee turned into adrenaline. And doubt? Doubt turned into drive. But life didn't get easier. I got pregnant with my daughter when I was 21. Her father? Gone before the sonogram. Everyone told me it was over. That I'd never bounce back. That single moms should settle. But I wasn't built for settling. I worked with my baby in a sling and a laptop on my lap. I coded websites while rocking her to sleep. I emailed clients between feedings. And sometimes, yes, I cried myself to sleep, wondering if it was worth it. But I always woke up and tried again. So when they see the Amex now, they think it was a gift. They don't know it was bought with tears, risk, and relentless work. That card came after 17 failed pitches, 3 near evictions, 1 totaled car, and 100 people telling me I wasn't the type. Wasn't polished enough. Wasn't educated enough. Wasn't rich enough. But I never let them decide my value. Because I knew something they didn't. I was built from the bottom. And when you build from the bottom, you don't break easy. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had to clap for others while hiding your own pain? Ever had to smile at someone's success while fighting to keep your own lights on? Ever been laughed at for dreaming too big? Then you understand. You understand that success isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, gritty, lonely. Sometimes it walks into a room in slippers, because heels are too busy chasing fake status. But real wealth? Real power? Real confidence? It doesn't need to announce itself. It just shows up. And lets the world adjust. It was supposed to be my breakthrough. The job I stayed up 3 nights prepping for. A marketing coordinator position at a mid-sized tech firm downtown. Good benefits. Decent pay. A real chance to finally breathe. I showed up early, portfolio printed, resume stacked, confidence rehearsed. But I never made it past the front desk. It wasn't my qualifications. It wasn't my lack of a degree. It wasn't even my experience, because I had enough freelance work to make any recruiter pause. It was my shoes. Black ballet flats. The cheap kind from a strip mall store. I had scrubbed them clean the night before and glued down the peeling sole with super glue. I told myself, no one looks down in an interview. Turns out, that's exactly what they did. The receptionist's eyes went there first. Not my face. Not the folder I handed her. But my feet. She leaned forward with a smirk. You're here for the marketing role? I nodded, heart pounding. She paused. Looked over my outfit, pressed but second-hand. Hair slicked into a tight bun. Then she stood up and disappeared into the office behind her. I waited. 10 minutes. 15. 20. Finally, she returned, her smile now artificial and tight. Actually, she said sweetly, we just filled the role this morning. You should have received an email. I blinked. No, I didn't. She shrugged. Must have gone to spam. But I knew. I knew. There was no email. There was no role filled. Just a girl in the wrong shoes. I walked out that glass door and sat on the curb. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat there. Watching people walk by in $1,000 outfits they didn't even think twice about. And I told myself something that would stay with me forever. Next time, I'll be the one doing the hiring. That night, I didn't wallow. I built. I poured everything into my website. I revamped my services, created new packages, started offering branding and social media management. I took every odd job I could find. Flyers. Logos. Business cards. Didn't matter if it paid $50 or $500, I did it like I was working for Beyoncé. Because I knew. If I didn't open my own door, no one was going to open it for me. The funny thing is, that company? The one that turned me away over $12 shoes? 2 years later. They contacted me. They needed a full rebrand. Someone recommended me as the go-to girl for storytelling and design. I took the call. And when they offered to bring me in, I said something I never thought I'd say. I don't take interviews anymore. But I'll send over my proposal and my rate. And guess what? They paid it. Full price. No questions. Didn't even look at my shoes when I walked in. Because when your name starts carrying weight, people stop judging what's on your feet. So let this chapter be a warning and a reminder. There are people who will size you up in a second. Based on your clothes, your accent, your bag, your shoes. They'll write you off before you speak, and they'll smile while doing it. But that doesn't mean you shrink. It means you build something so powerful, they have to come back and ask if you're available. You'll want to scream, "Remember me?" But don't. Let your success be louder than your revenge. And if they ever ask how you did it, just say, "You should have looked past the shoes." People love to talk about opportunity. But they don't always mean what they say. Sometimes opportunity is just a pretty word they wrap around free labor. And I learned that the hard way. During the year I was building my business one gig at a time, barely sleeping, barely surviving. That's when I met Brent Harper, founder of some visionary startup with a rooftop office and an ego bigger than his logo. He found me through a friend of a friend. Said he liked my style and hustle. Told me I had potential, but no real brand visibility. Then he hit me with it. "We're not offering cash at the moment. But this could get your name out there." Exposure. The dirtiest word in the freelance world. He said it like it was a check I could cash. Like it could pay for daycare. Like I could hand it to my landlord and say, "Don't worry, sir, I'm trending this month." But I needed the gig. Rent was overdue, my daughter had outgrown her shoes again, and I hadn't eaten a full meal in 2 days. So I smiled, clenched my jaw, and said yes. I worked day and night on that project. Designed a full website. Built a brand guide. Wrote every page of copy myself, tailored every single element to reflect his vision, because I believed that if I just showed what I could do, people would stop treating me like I was disposable. The launch day came. He posted the site. Took all the credit. Didn't tag me once. Not even a mention. Not a designed by. Not a thank you. Not a single dime. And when I asked, he laughed. "You should be grateful, Savannah. You're on our radar now." Do you know how many people would kill for this kind of exposure? I hung up that call and sat in silence. Not because I was shocked, but because I'd let it happen again. I let someone convince me I was lucky just to be in the room. That my work wasn't work unless someone important said so. But here's the thing about people like Brent, they forget you have options. They forget that when you come from nothing, you know how to rebuild from scratch. And this time I wasn't just going to rebuild. I was going to redirect. 2 weeks later, I got a call from another company, Brent's top competitor. They'd seen the site I helped with. Wanted to know if I was available for a full brand revamp. I didn't hesitate. Not for a second. I quoted double what I'd normally charge. They agreed. On the spot. Paid me a deposit that covered 2 months of rent and bought my daughter her first real birthday cake. And when Brent found out, he called me. Furious. Said I was stealing his ideas, that I'd betrayed the ecosystem. I told him calmly, "You paid me an exposure, Brent. I hope you're enjoying the light." That client? They went on to raise $10 million in funding. And I became their full-time creative consultant. Brent? Let's just say, he still owes people opportunity. So here's what I'll say to you. If someone ever tries to discount your value, by saying it's just a logo or just a video or just a post, walk away with your head high. Because your time is not free. Your skill is not a favor. And your gift is not charity. You are not lucky to be invited. They're lucky you showed up. Don't let them pay you in promises. In exposure. In maybe one day. Because one day never comes from people who refuse to see your worth right now. I was brushing crumbs off the couch when she asked me. My daughter, 6 years old at the time, sitting cross-legged in her pajamas, holding a juice box like it was a glass of wine. She looked up at me with the kind of honesty only children still have. No filter. No warning. No build-up. Just one sentence, soft but sharp. "Mama, why are you always so tired?" I froze. My hands paused mid-sweep. I looked at her. My girl. The reason I kept pushing. The reason I pulled all-nighters and swallowed tears and smiled when I wanted to scream. And in that moment, I had no answer. Because what was I supposed to say? That her mother was tired of being invisible? I didn't want to lie. But I didn't want to crush her with truth either. So I sat down. On the floor. Right in front of her. And for the first time in a long time, I let my back slouch and my guard fall. "I'm just working a lot," I whispered. She tilted her head. "But you work all the time. Even when you're home. You don't laugh as much anymore." I didn't realize how fast my heart was beating until then. Because she wasn't wrong. I had stopped laughing. Stopped dancing in the kitchen. Stopped telling bedtime stories with voices and sound effects. I was becoming a machine. Functional. Efficient. Exhausted. That night, after she went to sleep, I sat in the dark. Laptop open. Emails unanswered. And I cried. The kind of cry that doesn't come from sadness. But from pressure. From fear. From the crushing weight of trying to be everything at once. A provider. A protector. A role model. But I was burning out. I thought building a business would free me. And in some ways, it had. But in other ways, I had simply traded one trap for another. Now I was my own boss, but also my only employee. No sick days. No safety net. No room to fall. And still, that little voice echoed in my head. "You don't laugh as much anymore." That question haunted me. Because what's the point of success, if the people you love most remember you as a ghost? So I made a promise that night. Not to work less, because I couldn't afford that yet. But to show her why I was working. To let her see the fire, not just the fumes. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in months. I took her with me. To the library. To the coffee shop. Sat her next to me with crayons and snacks while I met with a client. I explained my work. Showed her how I built websites. Let her watch me create something from nothing. And you know what she said? "Wow. You're like a superhero." That hit different. Because I realized. She wasn't asking me to quit. She was asking me to let her in. So many of us carry the weight in silence. We protect the people we love by hiding the struggle. But sometimes what they really need is to see our strength up close. Not polished. Not perfect. But real. To every mom out there, every parent, every provider. If you've ever felt like you're running on fumes. Like you're running on fumes. Like you're showing up for everyone else but disappearing from yourself. I see you. I am you. And it's okay to be tired. But never forget what your tiredness is building. Because one day, your kids won't remember the brand of shoes you wore. But they will remember how you kept showing up. Even with puffy eyes. Even with a tired smile. Even when no one clapped for you. That morning, I didn't feel powerful. I hadn't slept. My inbox was chaos. My daughter had a meltdown over missing socks. The world felt too loud, too heavy. And the last thing I cared about was what shoes I had on. So I grabbed my keys, kissed my girl goodbye, and slipped my feet into the only thing near the door. Slippers. Fuzzy, worn, quiet. They didn't match my bag. They didn't match the boutique I was headed to. But I told myself, "You've earned this. Let them talk." And they did. From the moment I stepped in, they stared. Laughed behind manicured hands. "Is she here to clean the store? Slippers? In here? She must be lost." Their words dripped with money, but not class. With status, but not grace. But I stood tall. Because I'd been counted out before. And every time, I came back harder. I wasn't here to prove anything. I was here because I could be. Because I wanted to buy something for me. Not for a meeting. Not for a pitch. Not for a man. But because I wanted to walk into a room and feel beautiful. Because for once, I wasn't building for survival. I was building for joy. They kept laughing, until I reached the counter. 3 gowns. No tags checked. No hesitation. I said I'd take them all. Their faces changed. One whispered, "She can't be serious." The other rolled her eyes and prepared to decline my card. Then I reached into my bag and dropped it. The Black Amex. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just confidently. Like someone who knew what she was worth. Dead silence. You could hear their egos fall to the floor. The manager came sprinting out like I was royalty. Suddenly the women behind the counter found their manners. "Would you like champagne while we wrap these up, Ms. Jones? Can we call you a car? Would you like to browse the exclusive collection in the back?" I didn't even smile. I just looked up and said. "You laughed when I walked in wearing slippers. But you don't look so comfortable now, do you?" Because real wealth? It doesn't scream. It doesn't posture. It doesn't need validation. It walks in quietly, in slippers, no less. And leaves with everything it came for, and more. I walked out of that boutique with 3 dresses and 0 apologies. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to remind them who I was. Because they knew. And more importantly, I did too. So if you've ever been laughed at. For how you dress. For how you speak. For where you come from. For how little they think you have. Remember this. Let them laugh. Let them whisper. Let them write you off. Because when you walk in with truth, purpose, and quiet power, you don't need the room's approval. You own the room just by being in it. To every underdog. To every single mom. To every girl who's ever been told, "You're not the type." This story is yours too. Not just to watch. But to live. They judge what they see. But they don't know what you've survived. Walk proud. Even if it's in slippers.